So, good evening, tech enthusiasts. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. It's 26 July 2020, and it's 26 July and it's 2020. We don't have a flood today, and we are very lucky for that. But nevertheless, we are going to get flooded with the knowledge of Git and Github today. So that was my lame opening joke. Let me move on forward to introduce myself. On behalf of Team Synergy, I am Param Shendekar, and I would like to thank you all for choosing to attend this Git and Github session. For those of you who are with us for the first time, we at Team Synergy conduct such awesome sessions and courses for you all so that you have a good head start and understanding of what you all want to achieve and learn. Along with me, we have Mihir Gada, who is a CS undergrad and currently in his final year, and we both will be heading the session today. We both are from K.J. College of Engineering. Before moving on forward, let me tell you, please ensure you note down the important points as we speak. And if at all there are any doubts, please do not hesitate before posting them on the chat section. Now, let me tell you about the past courses or sessions that we had conducted. We have conducted one front-end web development course and one resume making session. We have covered topics and taught concepts like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, jQuery, Chart.js, etc. in the front-end web development course, and we had an awesome response for that. Also, recently, we conducted a resume making session, and the response was again very great for that too. Moving on forward, today we will be talking about Git and GitHub and the various little things associated with it. Most of you all, like I checked the registrations personally, and I figured out almost 82% of you all are very less accustomed with what Git and GitHub is. And so today is a perfect time of clearing all those doubts and fears that you have regarding it. So today we'll be talking about all the little basic things regarding Git and get you all ready to use it in your life. Well, trust me as I speak this, when the lockdown started, I had no idea how to function with Git. But see, right now I'm taking a session on it. So do not fear about Git. It is very easy as long as you put your efforts into learning it. So you guys can guess how easy it is if you put little efforts. If not anything, I can guarantee that by the end of this session, we will have removed your fear over what Git is and how do things function on Git and GitHub. So moving on forward, we will be discussing the today's session and what are we going to discuss. We will be seeing what is a VCS and why do VCS exist. We'll be talking about how to install Git on your PC. We'll be mentioning about the keywords related to Git. We'll be showing a Git workflow example, like how do normally things happen on Git and GitHub. We'll be also talking about the advanced features that Git provides us. We'll be moving on forward to learn about what is GitHub Student Pack and how to make the most out of it. We'll also show you practically how to host a static page on GitHub, so that you can the people all over the web can see it. We'll also be talking about how to get the completion certificate and the task related to it that you guys need to complete in order to get the certificate. Then we'll be discussing about the materials and the resources that will be provided for this particular session and how are we going to provide it. And we'll be discussing about the future sessions. So moving on forward, we have the first part which talks about VCS. VCS is an acronym for version control system. Now let me tell you, most of you all must have not heard what is a VCS, and right. So VCS stands for version control system. I'm sure every one of you knows what a version is, but for those of you who don't, version means a different form of the same thing, which exists in different time period. Okay. So like, for example, you are an older and smarter version of yourself from 5 years back. So that is your version. And control system means a software or program which keeps together and manages and controls all these versions. You can think of VCS as an old librarian's mind. An old librarian who doesn't know how to operate a library management system, but his mind is so sharp that he knows where in the entire library will find the book, on which shelf and which edition. So VCS is particularly that. It is a utility software and a system which keeps track of every small modification that you make to a repository. Do not worry if you don't understand what a repository is. We'll be covering that later. But just focus on the keywords which say that it keeps track of every little modification. So VCS is like a database of changes, insertions, and deletions. So these are the examples of the various version control systems. We have Git, we have Subversion, we have Mercurial, Bitbucket, and etc. But why do we need a VCS? That's the main question, right? Because as software developers or as IT professionals, in your future you will be working in teams and creating codes, and working in a company where there is a team for software development. So at that time you won't have to exchange code manually or through your mails or Google Drive. What you can do is you can use a VCS, and that manages all. It preserves, it tracks, and it records every bit of your code and your project. And it also allows you to roll back and do concepts like merging and branching. We'll be covering those later. So these are the examples of version control system. Now I'll be talking about Git installation and how to install Git on your PC. Git can be installed on any operating system, be it Linux, Ubuntu, Windows, Mac OS, etc. All you have to do is you have to go on the link that is visible on the screen right now, and you need to just choose the operating system which is compatible for your PC. For Windows, I would suggest beforehand check if you have a 32-bit or 64-bit operating system, and if you have a Linux, or then only a few command lines, only a few commands can do the work for you. And if you already have Git installed on your PC, in order to get the future or the latest version, you can just git clone, and the link and the screenshot. In the screenshot, you can see the link for the same. So you just need to go on that link and find out the compatible version. When installing Git, keep in mind that there are a few things that you need to check while making the setup. The most important thing to check is to allow this particular setting that will, the option allows you to use Git in third-party software as well. So that is recommended, because in future you will be using third-party software where the use of Git will be primary, and that is why just keep this thing in mind and do the same. After you install Git successfully, you like when you download the executable file, you will be installing Git and doing that changes. After the installation is complete, in order to check that that Git is rightly installed, all you have to do is go in your command prompt by typing cmd in the search, and you can just type Git. By typing Git, it would provide all these all the help functions and all the information related to Git. So that signifies that you have installed Git correctly. That is the only basic proof of that Git has been installed in your local machine very successfully. Now, moving on forward, we will be talking about commands to log into Git. Since Git is installed on your own machine, you will be configuring Git to know that it is you. So you will be configuring a global username. That is, wherever you initialize Git, it must know that it has been initialized by you. So these commands available on your screen are used to configure and tell Git that it is always you. So git config global username, and in the your username section you can type your name, and the second command after that to be run is git config global user email, and your email ID goes there. The email ID is required in cases where if you forget your password or something like that, so that would be beneficial. Now these are the things that go into installation and configuring Git. Now comes the part where you start using Git. The process till now was very easy, and it would hardly take you 20-25 minutes to get all this done. So do not fear that, and go ahead and install Git right away after the session. Now we'll be talking about the basic Git keywords. The basic Git keywords are the repositories and the other words that are visible on your screen. We'll be talking about each of the basic Git keywords, and I will be explaining to you about them. So the first keyword is repositories. So basically it is a storage space for your project files. Now project can be anything like a Django project or a Python project or any sort of project. So that is a storage space for your project files. It is like a directory, like a folder. Each repository will keep track of all the files present in it. So for example, if you have a folder named ABCD and inside it there are 4 files named A, B, C and D, then each little modification happening in each of the file will be kept track of, since it is in that particular repository. So a repository is usually shortened to be called as a repo, and that is how they work on the software space. You can literally place anything inside a repo. Consider it analogous to your drawer. Okay, the drawer that into which we dump everything. So a repo is like that. You can use anything on in a repo. Moving on forward, we have the next keyword, commit. A commit in GitHub corresponds to each version of your project. By doing a commit, you are basically creating a record on Git and GitHub that this is another version of your project. Whenever you commit something to Git, you are telling Git that keep track of this particular version of my project. I'll be needing it in future. So that is what a commit is. You are just telling Git that at this point of time, I'm feeling that the state of my project, which it is in right now, is good, and I want to preserve it in history, so that whenever in future I might need to refer it, I can use the commit. So that is what it is, and you provide a commit message so that when you look over all the commit history, you will get to know about what happened in that particular commit, and that would be beneficial for you. The third keyword we'll be talking about is clone. So I'll be explaining clone by giving an example. So like, imagine if you have a repository on GitHub, or if you like someone else's repository, someone else's project that you want to use to make your own project or to contribute into that project, you can clone it on your own PC. You cannot go ahead. That is very infeasible to go and start coding on GitHub itself. So what you do is you clone that repository on your local machine by using the git clone command. Now remember that cloning a repository won't give you the latest changes that the owner of the repo makes after you have cloned it. Whenever you clone a repository, you will have only those particular changes of that timestamp. When you clone your own repo from GitHub to local machine, you can perform modifications and again push the changes to the repo. Now, if you don't understand what pushing means, I'll be explaining that next. So push is the next keyword in Git. As I said, it is always beneficial to make changes to your file or code or anything which is tracked by Git locally and not on GitHub. By locally, I mean on your local laptop or on your PC, anything like that. We cannot make good changes on GitHub by coding them, because the text editor is preferably good on your local machine itself. So in such cases, after making the changes, you will push those changes from your local machine to the remote repository present on GitHub. Git and GitHub are completely different. Don't mix them both. You have Git installed on your local machine. GitHub is present on the cloud. So you push those changes from the local repository to the remote repository using the git push command, so that GitHub also has the latest modifications of your files. We transfer commits from the local repo to the remote repo. Keep that in mind. Next keyword we will be talking about is status. The git status command will tell you about the current status of your repository, whether there are some files which have been modified by you, or whether there are some files which are not being tracked by GitHub. Like after you initialized GitHub, you added some files, but they were not present at that particular time. So the git status will tell you all those kind of messages. And yeah, so that is basically it for git status. Next we have git pull. Suppose you I'll be telling you about git pull like that through an example. Now imagine you and your friend are working on a project, and your friend hosted a repository and all your files are present on that particular repository. What you do in order to make changes to that repository is you clone that remote repository onto your local repository and start making changes to it. But after making changes, your friend told you that he has also made changes into that files. So what you want to do is you want to get those latest changes onto your local files as well. So what you do is you use the git pull command, and that will bring on the latest changes that your friend has performed. And then we have git add. By git add command, you are just adding the untracked files to Git. And also in cases where you are unsure if you want to commit those changes, you just git add them and stage those changes. So yeah, that is it for git add command. Next we have fork, the last git keyword. So if you want some repository to freely experiment with, like there are many developers on the web who have coded good projects and hosted them on GitHub repositories. So you can use those projects in order to start your own. In such cases, what you do is you create an exact copy of that particular repository on your own GitHub by using the git fork command, and by using that command, then later you clone it on your local machine and start working on your project. So that is how git fork works. So these were all the basic git keywords that we covered.